Part 2. Sudden violent gusts of wind arose, billowing the clouds up into an ominous flotilla that soon swallowed the sun. The forest creatures scurried off to seek shelter, and Narkore was no exception, as he too sought refuge from the impending heavy downpours. Crouching under a lip of rock in a crevice, he felt famished and decided to consume the last portion of his dried meat rations. He'd been subsisting mainly on berries and roots, as he felt uncomfortable with hunting any animals. As he swallowed the last bite, a white hare sheltering under a bush caught his eye. He recalled the succulent morsels of meat the cook provided every day of the week. Rabbits were his specialty. On many an occasion, Narkore had snuck into the kitchen and watched the procedure. It won't be the same cooked over a campfire, but he hissed under his breath. Nevertheless, his mouth had watered in anticipation. He did excel in running. I suppose I must try. With this thought in mind, he kept his eyes on the hare. The moment hare moved to scurry off, Narkore darted from his shelter in hot pursuit of his game. But the hare was maddeningly swifter. Just as they reached the clearing, it suddenly stopped and, turning to face Narkore, growled. What happened next was unbelievable. The hare quickly grew in size to monstrous proportions. Narkore, brandishing his knife, courageously fended off the fierce attacks and even managed to wound the beast. Suddenly, a shrill cry coming out of nowhere shook the earth, and at that very instant, the monstrous hare, now seemingly reticent, vanished into thin air. Blast! Narkore stamped his foot in hot fury. Unwilling to forego the fight, he avidly scanned the perimeter, but found not a trace of his opponent. The tall grass all about him swayed violently in the thrashing wind. What's that? He rubbed his eyes in disbelief and looked closer. Is that a flower, a yellow chrysanthemum? Forgetting his woes, he rushed towards it. But when he reached the exact spot, instead of a flower, he saw a little girl in beautiful yellow dress, crouching and poking the ground with a stick. She simply looked up and smiled at him unafraid. Are you lost, little girl? He inquired. She answered him with a gentle shaking of the head. He looked about him, and lo and behold, beyond the trees he spotted a trail of smoke, which told of a dwelling. Then he noticed that twilight was encroaching upon them. The recent danger still fresh in his mind, he shook his head and said, You shouldn't be out here at this time and all alone. Come, I'll walk you home. He reached out a friendly, concerned hand. She shyly took it in hers, and together they walked towards her home. Her parents were delighted at her safe return. They had just discovered Yekris's, for that was their daughter's name, absence, and were about to go look for her when they spotted the two children walking towards them. Narkore spent a warm, cozy night and few more days and nights with Yekris and her parents. The adults had only exchanged a curious look between them when Narkore that night decided to unburden his fear about the monster he'd encountered prior to meeting Yekris, and smiled politely at his deep concern about their daughter's well-being should she encounter the same beast. Their subsequent reassuring manner and words soon put this fear out of Narkore's thoughts. He ate strange but delicious vegetarian food and spent his days tending the herbs and flowers planted in a vine-enclosed garden at the back of the house. He would have been content to stay there forever, but one day Chrysanthemum, looking very sad, told him, "Tomorrow is the last day I can play with you." And before he could inquire further, she ran off into the house. The dinner was consumed in silence, and everyone went to bed early that night. Following morning, when Narkora awoke, he found himself beside a grove of trees in the midst of a plush pile of grass that had kept them both dry and warm. Strangely enough, there was no sign of a house or garden anywhere. Just then he heard the sound of hound dogs, and then sighted numerous mounted armed men, loaded with game of the hunt, racing towards him. They had been searching the countryside for him for the past several days and promptly delivered him to his home. He expected the welcome he received from his father. "You ungrateful beast, how dare you be so defiant? If you weren't my only offspring, I would have had you whipped within an inch of your life, then have your body torn asunder and fed to the wild dogs for this. But don't think your punishment will be any less severe. You deserve no leniency from me, and be assured there are ways to make you regret your actions." In the subsequent days and weeks, Narkora faced the wrath of his father, whose anger could not be assuaged with any amount of yelling and threats. Narkora received his punishment stoically, however, enduring an even more restrictive, austere regimen than previously, one that was supposed to build his character. After his 18th birthday, when his father passed away, Narkora, now the master of the house, gave full rein to his suppressed but no less diminished passion for the literary art and began cultivating many varieties of chrysanthemums. His garden soon had the best blooms and became the envy of all. He'd invested the family's money in rental properties to generate income enough for him to live frugally and contentedly. Often he would frequent the city markets and purchase new varieties of flowers to enrich his garden. Though he was of age, he refused to consider marriage and instead devoted all his spare time to creating magnificent chrysanthemum paintings, writing poems to the flower, or simply tending the large chrysanthemum beds that flourished under his loving care. End of part 2.